So if we start off with what is mindset? Mindset is described as the established set of attitudes held by an individual. And basically, it's the set of beliefs that shape how we think, how we feel, how we make sense of a situation, and also how we behave. It's used mainly in the sports and educational world, but we like to use it here within our accelerators to be able to help entrepreneurs, as Deborah said, grow their business, react to obstacles, pivot if they need to, and just be always change ready. So let me introduce mindset to you. If I was going to say that I'm going to pick one of you at random, ask you to come off mute, turn your cameras on, and give a 60-second pitch about your business, how would that make you feel? I want you all to have a quick think. Do you feel excited and ready to show your business off and, show it to the rest of the cohorts? Or do you feel really nervous and a bit scared and actually want to go and leave the team's meeting right away? All these feelings, and everyone on this call will be having different thoughts, and it's all due to our mindset about the situation. Our mindset's developed through our past experiences, how comfortable we feel in the situation, who we surround ourselves by, life experiences. And this all comes together to shape how we think and how we feel. Do we feel prepared to give a pitch? Do we feel excited, or do we feel not as ready? And basically, it shapes how we go ahead and approach things. So within the NatWest Accelerator, we have identified our Power Up mindsets. And these are a number of key behaviors we think is really important for entrepreneurs. So if we have a look at these behaviors here, and I want you to have a think, which ones do you find that you're best at if you were to rate them, and which ones actually do you struggle with more? Are you focused on your goals? Do you motivate your team? Do you know your numbers? Do you feel ready to pitch the whole time? And start having a quick look and try and understand which areas maybe you struggle with more, and which ones and why that is. Is it because you've had experiences in the past and you don't feel as ready and capable to do it? Is it because you've been told you're not good enough? Is it because you don't enjoy it as much? And actually, can any of this be having a detriment to your business? As entrepreneurs, I know you will have to be able to manage 1,000,001 things. So it's really important to be able to note some of these, which ones maybe you're really good at, which ones you struggle with a bit more. So to help tackle this, we have fixed versus growth mindsets. Normally I'd ask, have you all heard of this before? But as I can't see any of you, I'm going to assume some of you have, some of you haven't. But basically, mindset is the set of beliefs around one's abilities. And fixed versus growth mindset was this term coined by Carol Dweck, who's a Stanford University professor. There's been books about this, podcasts, everything. So it's something you're interested in. There's a lot more out there that you can do a bit of research in, and it is really fascinating. And Carol basically thought that there is two mindsets, your fixed and your growth mindset. So someone with a fixed mindset believes that their attributes and abilities are fixed. That means you're good at what you're good at, and you're bad at what you're not good at, and this can't be changed. Whereas someone with a growth mindset believes that their attributes are malleable. They can be changed through hard effort and determination. Both mindsets have, your internal monologue, your inner critic saying, oh, I can't do that, I'm not good enough. And someone with a fixed mindset would use this to be like, okay, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, and I want to do it. Whereas someone with a growth mindset would think, okay, I may not be able to do it, I may not be as talented, I think, as these other people, but what can I learn from this? Actually, if everyone's got more experience, how much more can I gain from this situation? And it's all about creating that internal monologue of actually challenging your fixed mindset and thinking, actually, this could be a great opportunity and I could really learn and develop from this. So if we go into these in a little more detail, we have the definition of fixed mindset is the belief that character, intelligence, and creative ability are fixed. In other words, you are not in control. It's basically the fact that your talent and intelligence alone leads to success and that effort is not required. The trick to overcoming a fixed mindset is to realizing where this behavior comes from. And normally it's down to fear, fear of not being good enough, fear of having to do it again, fear of comparing yourself to others, and fear of looking stupid and silly in a situation. And we all have it. But I want you to take a think of how many times have you maybe missed out of opportunities because of this fear? Have you ever not introduced yourself and your business to potential stakeholders because you don't feel ready, your fear of looking stupid, and maybe any potential opportunities that you've missed out of because of this fear? And if you can change your mindset around it, how can you learn to take control of the situation and really make every opportunity that comes your way count? Always ask something from someone and be ready and willing to get involved in anything that comes your way. Now, I don't want you to think, oh, I have just a fixed mindset about everything and this isn't great. You have both a fixed mind and a growth mindset about a lot of things in life. And society really encourages a fixed mindset. If you think from a young age, if you're told, oh, you're really good at, maths, and it makes you feel amazing and you feel, oh, I'm really good, I want to do that. Whereas if you don't do as well at something, you're told, okay, it's fine, you're not as good, we can try this. And it just creates this idea that you feel good about something, you're good at it, so you want to do it more. And if you're not so good, you feel, I don't want to do it, I'm going to push it away, and I'm going to have a fixed mindset about that. And Carol Dweck actually did a really interesting experiment on this where she took 100 like year 3, year 4 school children, and she divided them into 2 groups and she gave them different type of praise for a whole year. So she had one side had personal praise. So this was stuff like if you did well on a maths test, well done, you're really talented at maths, you did really well. And this basically gives the idea that, you're intelligent or you're not. It sends the message that you have the ability or you don't, and this promotes a fixed mindset. The other half of the group were told process praise. So if they did well in a test, it was well done, you worked really hard, and I know you put a lot of effort into this. And actually, coming back a few years later, the majority of kids who were doing better and more able at school and across a number of subjects were those who had the process praise, because they knew that hard work and determination is what led to success, not just being naturally talented. Someone with a fixed mindset is someone who is constantly seeking validation to prove worth to themselves and others. And we all have it, and it's tiring. And you need to take a step back and think, okay, maybe something I'm not as good at, but if I use my growth mindset, how can I adapt and change and become better? So a number of executives who use this, what they use is they try and identify what their fixed mindset triggers are. So what causes you to go into a fixed mindset? Is it bad feedback? Is it not doing as well? Is it fear? And noticing these triggers and what causes you to suddenly think, I can't do that, I'm not good enough, and what notices you to go into this fixed mindset, you can start to begin to persuade yourself and to collaborate with your own mind to be able to go into the growth mindset. And for some people, it's as simple as realizing that they have a fixed mindset and telling themselves to go into a growth one. And for other reasons, it can be harder and will take longer. But it's something that gets easier and easier the more you do. So if we move on to the growth mindset, and growth mindset is the belief that you can change and grow, as I said, through effort, application, and experience. In other words, you are in control. So one of the important terms you've got to come to grips with about these mindsets is that you do have both. You can't have a growth mindset about absolutely everything, because you'd be jack of all trades, master of none. You'd want to take up everything. And actually, what a growth mindset's all about is it's noticing where things aren't working and just being curious and willing enough to do something about it. An example for having both mindsets is, say, you've decided you want to run a marathon. You're not a runner, you get tired walking up the stairs. And if you had a fixed mindset, you think, well, I can't do it. No way. I can't even go around the corner without breaking a sweat. There's no way I can do it. I'm not going to put myself through that. Whereas someone with a growth mindset would think, okay, if I put a plan together and I work really hard, maybe in a year's time I stick to that plan and I put in a lot of effort, I can do it. And this person, they put in the hard work and they do the marathon and they're running the marathon and they're 5 miles from the end and they hit the wall that if you've done the marathon, I haven't, but I'm sure everyone hits, and they think, I can't do it anymore. And this is when they need their fixed mindset to just fix themselves on that end goal, just keep on going one step in front of the other to get to the end. So in both situations, there's different benefits to having a fixed and growth mindset. So it's not about having a growth mindset about everything. It's just noticing where you're maybe missing opportunities, not responding to challenges because you're being fixed. As an entrepreneur, I know you're all a bit of a one-man show. You've got to be good at sales, operations, accounting. And if you notice you're not as good at one and you're holding back from doing it, then actually it could be holding back your business. So it's about recognizing what triggered you to have this fixed mindset and trying to think, okay, but actually, if I put in a bit of effort, what can I learn from this situation? It may seem like a really scary thing to have to change your mindset and something that may take a bit of effort. But actually, the way your brain works is your brain cells are some of the only cells in your bodies that don't grow and divide. When they die, you're not growing any new ones. But what does change is you have neurons connecting different areas of your brain together. And the more you use a neuron pathway, the stronger it becomes. The wider, the more neurotransmitter, the more myelinated it becomes. And it means it's easier to use that pathway and it becomes more second nature. So the more you say you introduce your business to new people, or the more you ask questions in a lecture after a presentation, the more it'll feel normal, the less you'll get your increased heart rate, less effort it will take, and it will become an easier experience. Another key detriment that some people have is they think that, oh, I'm a positive person, I have a positive outlook on life, I like trying new things, therefore I have a growth mindset the whole time. You do not have a growth mindset about everything and everything the whole time. And actually, having this belief sometimes can be a detriment because it's about noticing where you need your growth mindset and where you need your fixed mindset. So, if we come on to the importance of mindsets, I love researching into how mindset has an influence on pretty much everything and anything we do, from our health to our well-being to how much weight we put on, our exercise. And one of my favorite experiments done by Yale University was onto the effects of your well-being on mindset. So they took 100 housekeepers who do really labor intensive jobs. I get tired changing my sheets and they have to do it 10 times a day. They're on their hands and knees scrubbing. And they asked them, how many of you thinks you get enough exercise in a day? And 2/3 said they got below average. And from that, 1/3 said they got none at all. And bear in mind, they measured their heart rates and they were burning a lot of calories, just being up all day and working, but they just didn't realize this. So what they did is they divided them into two groups. And one group, they gave a 15-minute presentation on the benefits of the exercise in their jobs, that they're getting their 15 minutes, way more than 15 minutes required each day, the benefits this is having on their body and their mental well-being. And the other half got nothing. And they came back 4 months later and they took a whole load of tests before and after, kept the controls, they didn't join the gym or anything, and they found the group that had the 15-minute presentation dropped weight, systolic blood pressure, body fat, and they liked their job more. Now, this was all from changing no behavioral change. It was purely their mindset alone that triggered their body to realize, actually, you are doing work, you are working out, and this alone tricked them into the placebo of thinking they're exercising more, they're doing the same, and therefore cause them to lose weight and enjoy their job more, all from this 15-minute presentation. Now, this wasn't, a mindset change that they came about themselves, but it was one that they were told about, but it did shift their mindsets. And as entrepreneurs, you have to be able to shift your mindset the whole time to be able to pivot to changes, to be able to believe in your company and know your core value and convince others of it, but also respond to the changing, environment and adapting. So what I'm just trying to say is that mindset matters. The psychological and physiological effects on anything in our lives is and can be affected by our mindset. So it's really important you understand what yours is. So this is just a little graph to show that your life events changes how you think about your mindset. If you've had a bad experience public speaking, then you won't enjoy public speaking and you may have a bit of a fixed mindset about it, but it can change and it does adapt. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this session, it's E at R equals O. So this means event and reaction equals outcome. So the event is something you cannot change. If you caused it or not, there's nothing you can do. The event has happened, it's going to happen. The only way that you can change the outcome is by how you react to it. So I want you to have a think about maybe something in the day, in the past week, that you've reacted to and how that's influenced the outcome. If you maybe were more assertive, would it have been different? If you maybe were a little less challenging, would it have been different? Maybe you were too harsh, too kind. And it just really, I know it's a simple concept, but it really does bring your mind to think, actually, I have the only power to change this outcome. And the only thing you can change is how you react to the situation. And it's really good to reflect on your day and then be more aware of how you react and how the outcome will change. So I'm going to go on a bit to how you can develop your mindset and hopefully some actions you can take away about how you can use your growth mindset. So really look at the language you use with yourself and others. So it's not change anything from I can't to I can't yet. Stop using words like possibly, maybe, potentially, and start being more assertive with what you say, because it actually has such a surprising influence on not only how other people view your confidence, but also how you view your own confidence. Just subtle changes in your language will have a big effect on your mindset. Take time to reflect. I'm not sure about you, but I really struggle, especially whilst working from home, about when the end of my day is. I'm always logged on. If I hear another email go off, I'll go check it. So I've got my phone on me. And it's really hard to have that, okay, I'm leaving the office, that's the end of the day. Especially as entrepreneurs, you want the day to never end. There's always a million tasks to do. So what I find a really useful way to really draw a line at the end of the day is to reflect on the day. Think about how you react to situations. What have you done well? What have you not done well? And use that as a really good cutoff as, okay, I'm reflecting on my day, schedule in 15 minutes, and that's the end. And this will really help your well-being to be able to detach yourself from work, which can sometimes be especially hard when your work is your life, your business. Set your vision and be clear on your plan. I am such a believer about having a number of goals. You should have that one big, sky's the limit goal. Just because, we're not kids anymore doesn't mean you shouldn't daydream about that one thing. If you make it, obviously it's incredible, but there's something to pin you to what's the end achievement. Is it just being able to help other people and making a real impact? Is it being able to buy a big house somewhere? No matter what it is, have that one big goal and keep it. Just because, as I said, you're older doesn't mean you should keep everything to being super realistic. Obviously, you should have some more realistic goals, but have that one far-reaching one. Put it on your wall if you want. Stick a photo of that car you've always wanted to be able to buy, or the office you've always wanted to have, and have it there to be able to look at and think, that's the goal. It's also important to have realistic goals that you constantly are checking and changing and seeing if you're reaching. There was a really interesting study done where they took a group of 400 people, they divided them into 4 groups, and they asked the first group to think their own goal. The second group had to think and write down their goal. The third group had to think, write down, and also tell someone. And the fourth group had to do all this and also keep a track of their goals on a monthly basis. And they came back a year later, and as you can imagine, the graph went like this. Those 43% of group one actually achieved their goals. They're just the ones who thought it, compared to 76% in the final group. So it just shows that actually don't just think, oh, I have this goal, I want to make it. Write it down, keep on track of it, tell people, and constantly be looking back and thinking, oh, look, I achieved that. I'm on to the next. Where am I going next? My business has pivoted. I'm going to change my goals to reflect this. As I said before, understand your triggers, what causes you to go into a fixed mindset. This one's a bit cheesy, but enjoy the journey. Sometimes we do have to be reminded that, the journey is what makes it fun. And if you enjoy the journey, there is no end goal. Even if you have your one far-reaching goal, there's never an end to it. So make sure you are enjoying what you're doing and you're really reflecting on the day and thinking, actually, wow, I'm doing some incredible work. Learn from failure. This is a big one. At our accelerator, we always like to have actions from every session we have with the entrepreneurs. And what I also like to say is if you have anything you think was a failure, didn't work, is write down some key actions from that. So therefore you feel like you're learning and it was almost a good thing you had the failure, because look what you've learned. Even if it's as simple as don't sell to that customer again, don't do this. Make sure it's all a learning curve. And failure is actually, as you all know, so important to be able to learn, what's important for your business, where you're growing, where's the best place. And lastly, stop making excuses and take ownership for your attitude. I think this one's quite self-explanatory. Comes into the E and R equals O. Your attitude is everything. Don't make excuses for yourself. Also, don't be too harsh on yourself, because sometimes you can be putting a lot on your business. So I don't know why a bit of the slide is covered here, but what is stopping you from having a growth mindset? Is it confidence? Confidence is defined by how you trust yourself in a situation, and it varies, and sometimes you feel confident about some stuff and not as confident about others. And normally you have stuff like this in your head. Not good enough, it's not going to work, just give up, you'll never make it, and what will other people think? And this is your inner critic. We've all got it in the back of our minds, and we need to learn how we can talk to our inner critic to convince them that actually it's not as bad as it looks. And there's 5 types of inner critics. I want to see which ones you think you associate with most. So we have the perfectionist, everything has to be perfect. If not, they're not good enough. You struggle with ambiguity and failure. You then have the pusher. These people set unrealistic targets for daily and monthly, and they don't meet them, and therefore they think, I'm not making it. And it weighs down on their mentality because they're not making their goals because they're being too ambitious every time. You have the people pleaser who, wants to please everyone over themselves, and often at detriment to themselves. You have the diminisher who never thinks they're good enough, and they struggle to overcome failure. And lastly, you have the imposter. I'm sure we've all heard of imposter syndrome, and I'm sure many of us have had it before, and it's comparing yourself to others and not feeling good enough. So I don't think we're going to have full time for the activity today, but I do want you to think about which inner critic you recognize most, and actually the pros and cons of your inner critic. When does it generally appear? How do you manage it? Can you use anyone to support you? These inner critics is something we all have, and it's just being able to have a conversation when you notice they're coming out, to be able to respond to it. So now we're going to go on to how to manage your inner critic. Firstly, it's developing awareness of your thoughts. As I said before, it's about reflecting at the end of the day and being aware. Are you being overly critical on yourself? Are you focusing on the negatives and never thinking about the positives? Recognize and replace common thinking errors. As I said, our thoughts are often exaggerated, biased, and disproportionate. Don't replay events again and again at the end of the day. You know, you can overanalyze them so much. Just be able to think, this happened, I'm going to reflect, and now I'm going to move on. See the situation from a different perspective. So often, if you had a failure or something that hasn't gone right and you put yourself down because of it, think how you would react if a friend told you they had the same problem. You wouldn't say, oh, you're a failure, you're not good enough. You'd say, okay, that's awful, but how can we react? You're actually amazing, and I believe in you, and you're so impressive, and you're balancing all this. So learn to become your own best friend. Stop being so harsh on yourself and see it from your friend's perspective, or even chat about it to a friend or a family member or a partner and see how they pick you up. And you'll see how harsh you can sometimes be on yourself, whereas others won't see you that way. Examine the evidence. Sometimes it's useful to even divide your paper in half and think down one side, what is the evidence that supports that? And down the other side, what evidence doesn't? It sometimes can be a bit American to give loads of compliments to yourself and, saying, actually, I've been really good at that. But it's really important that you can notice where you've done well, as well as just being overly critical. And lastly, balance acceptance with self-improvement. This is really important to have the power of yet. What is still important? What can still happen in the future? The power of yet is incredible. Just because you haven't achieved it doesn't mean you can't. You're never too late and you're never too old. So thank you. I realised this was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I tried to keep it to around half an hour, and we'll move on to questions in a second. But a few actions that I think would be really great that you all took away from today was to think about your key triggers. What triggers you to go into that fixed mindset? Start setting some goals. Take some time in your diary and think, what is my one far-reaching goal, and what are some more short-term, achievable, but also ambitious goals that you can have, and keep a track of them. Tell your friends and family. It can be a bit scary to do that, because as soon as you tell someone, it's really out there, but start doing this. Start trying to manage your inner critic. Think about who your inner critic is and what you can do to overcome them. And also take time to reflect at the end of the day, how you reacted. If you reacted differently, would it have changed? What did you do well? What actions could you take forward for the next day?